Hello. When you are listening to this, it will be the All-Star break. The AL has just beaten the NL 7-3. Seems like a good number. Adolis Garcia won the home run derby in front of his home crowd. And there's no baseball on for the next 2 days. So you're listening or watching us two idiots talk. And we're going to be grading the Braves' first half. Now, anybody who has watched this channel knows I think it's kind of dumb calling them the first and second half because, 90 games? Yeah, 90 games. I mean, the Braves played a little bit less just because of rain delays and stuff, but or postponements and stuff. But it's not really the half. They just put the All-Star game. The All-Star game should be like early July, but 4th of July would be sort of like kind of a hat on a hat, in my opinion. So, the season is divided into two unequal halves, but hey, you know what? That's the nice little idiosyncrasies of baseball. So we're going to be grading the Braves individual players this season based on our preseason expectations. So you're going to notice that there are some guys that, have done fairly well and they don't get a great grade. Some guys who haven't done as good as you, and some guys who haven't done as good but get a better grade. And this, again, it's just all preseason expectations. We're going to start with the spicier takes, maybe the ones that people may disagree more with. And we have a couple ones. We want to be fair. We're not just trying to come out for clicks. Obviously, you can look at our channel view count and understand that's not our intention. Or maybe it is, and we're just really bad at it. But we do have a couple spicy takes here. And also, too, we're not grading every player who has had a plate appearance or appearance in general for the Braves. The soft cutoff I gave was around 100 plate appearances for position players and about 20 to 30 innings minimum for pitchers. Mitchell, you
cut off the 15 paragraphs I had written about Zach Short and why he should be the starting shortstop. And he, without even consulting me, just erased all of it. And
well, it's funny because I was actually going to say I do feel like even though Zach Short doesn't meet the criteria, we should give him a grade. So Mitchell, just to paraphrase the very long soliloquy you wrote for Zach Short, what grade would you give him this first half in his cup of coffee?
Absolutely terrible hitter, can walk.
I mean, hey, you know what? When Austin Riley was injured, we could have easily sank those 2 weeks, and we kind of did, but kind of didn't as well. He played solid third base, and he drew walks. And you know what? Our organizational depth is pretty bad right now, and to have a guy like Zach Short come in and just do the bare minimum, I'll take that. I'll take that straight to the bank.
Yeah. So, we are going to start, as Cole mentioned, with the spicy takes, and we're starting off with Spencer Schwellenbach. This was a fun grade for me. I don't know about for you, Cole. I really didn't know who Spencer Schwellenbach was 4 months ago. I think I had heard his name in passing. I knew the Braves had drafted a shortstop and made him a pitcher a few years ago. Did not connect it was the same guy until right before he was called up. Because you look at Spencer Schwellenbach and you don't go shortstop. He looks like a guy, kind of like Austin Riley, third baseman, maybe a left fielder, a guy who hits for power, but not someone who commands the infield. He's pitched so well. The ERA doesn't show it, and I think it's because he's been lit up in the 5th and 6th inning. But he has one of the highest chase rates in baseball. I think he's in the 90-something percentile in chase. And Cole and I have talked about, the trouble with that last spot in the rotation since Strider went down. And who knew that all it took was another Spencer to replace it? So
another Spencer S. to
another
replace
Spencer
it.
S.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you have anything more to add on?
Yeah,
Spencer?
I mean, I was going to say in a perfect world, Spencer Schwellenbach probably is still, would be with Gwinnett right now. He actually never pitched a single inning for Gwinnett. It was a great story. If you're not aware, basically he got called up from Mississippi to Gwinnett. He was on his way driving to Georgia when he got the call and said, "Hey, you're gonna have to take 85 south down to or 75 south down to Cobb County because you're pitching for the big league squad." So did you give the grade already? Did we?
No. I was gonna
So
let you.
so yeah, the expectation Mitchell had here, I didn't know he really existed. The reality, locking down the 5th spot as a high potential raw starter, which gives us a grade of an A. And again, a lot of people would look at the ERA there. They would look at his first few starts and disagree. But again, I know we mentioned that these would be based on preseason expectations. Preseason expectation, he wasn't going to make his major league debut. In a perfect world, he's still able to develop in the minors, but here we are, and he's been a very solid 5th starter. And another, factor I would say leading to this grade is, you look at the other starters, and we'll get to them. We'll get to some of them. Other starters we had in the 5th spot, it was pretty ugly. It was pretty atrocious. So just to have a guy who, has always been he's a top 10 Braves prospect, but this year that's not really saying much. To have someone come in on short notice and be able to be a stabilizing presence, that's huge. So again,
I was going to say he had like 145 professional innings before coming up to the bigs. And now, for about 2 months, there was a guy starting for the Braves, and every start we'd be like, okay, we need to try someone else. We need to try someone else. And now that Schwellenbach's been up, those thoughts are gone. Every time Schwellenbach starts, it may not be his best start. He may allow 4 runs in 5 innings, but he's pitched well enough where I'm like, that we need an extra starter thought is gone. And that's enough for me alone. Even if I did know who he was, for an A. Absolutely.
That start against the Phillies was so good. He outpitched Max Fried the night before, and we're going to that series stressed out. I know they didn't have Harper. I know they didn't have Schwarber. Fried goes in, pitches a ugly start for his standards, even though he should have been taken out. Before facing Trey Turner a 4th time, but it's neither here nor there. And, we're going into a Saturday game like, oh, man, we got Spencer Schwellenbach. Like, this is as good as over. And, it comes in, pitches the best outing of his season, of his young career, I would say. And, really, really excited. So maybe we're fueled by some recency bias, but I'm fairly confident with that A grade. Next up, we have Sean Murphy. Expectation coming into the season, all-star catcher, elite hitting and defense. Reality, mostly injured, mid-hitting, and his solid defense has persisted. That gives us a grade of a C-, which you will notice as this goes on, there are a lot of C-. So I put this in the spicy because I think a lot of people would have Murphy lower. I think a lot of people would give him a D or D-. That slash line is not pretty, but considering the oblique injury he's had, and he's been heating up lately, when he's been on the field healthy, I think he's still been the Sean Murphy that we saw good during good stretches of last season.
I think Murphy also had the issue that Austin Riley had, where maybe he came back a little too early. I know the Braves didn't rush Murphy. He was out for 2 full months. But when you're 2 months into a season, I don't know. I feel like you need to stretch those rehab starts as much as possible. He came back. He wasn't hitting for a good couple weeks. Brian Snitker, and I think of all the players in the Braves organization, Snitker and Anthopoulos are the farthest apart on Murphy. I think Snitker doesn't know how to handle someone like Murphy, and Alex Anthopoulos acquired Murphy thinking that Snick could. So Murphy starts 2 games, sits. and then Travis Darno will start those games in between. But when you've been gone for so long and you haven't seen major league pitching in 2 months, that's not enough of a rhythm. And then Snicker buries him in the lineup.
Yeah.
I don't get that either. Um, but yeah, overall his stat line is a lot better looking than I think some fans realize. He's almost a
Mhm.
league average hitter at this point. Uh, but we did expect coming into the season, a 130, 140 WRC plus, elite defense. The defense, the arm has been weird. It just hasn't been getting runners out. Still really good framing, and then the bat's a lot worse than we'd expect, but not a
Yeah.
D grade for sure.
Again, I mean, oblique injuries for hitters are, I mean, they're not as severe in terms of like career implications as a shoulder injury, but I feel like just in terms of how it affects your performance, it's similar to like something like a shoulder. I mean, that's all your movement is in the core, especially for a hitter like Murphy. I mean, he's strong everywhere. I would say he's probably one of the strongest players on the team, which is saying a lot. But for him, I mean, it affects all your mechanics all the way from your oblique everywhere else in your body. You're having to compensate in other areas, and especially for a guy like Murphy, who is very, I would say, routine. He takes pride in his consistency, not being able to have your A swing, and then also just the nature of when the injury happened. I mean, we forget that it happened on opening day. You come into the season, you ramp up, and then you don't. You injure yourself on opening day. You come back, in the middle of, I would say, like panic mode. I mean, he came back right after. It was right around when Acuna went down.
I think he came back the day after.
Yeah. So you come back in the situation, and it's not like he was expected to be the savior or anything, but it's not like the vibes were good when he came back. So I was, I think a C- is a fair grade, and I think by the end of the season, I could see that becoming like a B or B minus.
I could even see, a hot streak like he had, where you flip the first and second half of the season, that the performance that he had last year. You could easily have a B plus kind of grade too,
Agreed.
where he just really heats up. Brian Snickard finally lets him catch. Maybe
3 days in a
put
row.
Marcell
To imagine.
Ozuna in left field for one day, and you let Murphy get another day as a hitter, and suddenly he's your cleanup hitter. I could see B plus by the end of the year.
Same. This next one, and this grade, I think, it pained me. I mean, I think it pained you as well.
I was ready to argue with you when I saw Cole came into the dock first, and then he gave some grades, and then I went in. So I saw what Cole had first. This was one that at first I was ready to be like, Cole, you're wrong. This is a bad grade. And if you noticed, I don't think I touched it. After, a minute of calming myself down, I was like, Cole is very right on this grade.
Yeah. And again, this is based on expectations. I think if you, just told us this is considering how much we're paying him, considering how long he's with the team for, considering what he did last season, everything, his resume, even up to last season, we have Matt Olson, expectation coming into 2024, a step below his career 2023 season. I don't think it's out of the question to say, in private, one time you told me that it was a fluke, which I don't agree with at all. I mean, he's given us some, not us, but the A's, some amazing seasons. Like, he's proven he is a force to be reckoned with, like, year in, year out. But I don't think it's that far out of the question to say that 2023 will be his best season. And if that's your best season, then
54 home runs is your best season.
There are Hall of Famers who didn't have seasons that good. So step below his career 2023 season, but still leader on offense, 70 plus extra base hits, 375 plus OBP. Reality, a league average first baseman, which it pains me. If you told me coming into the year that like Matt Olson would be putting up Casey Kochman stats, I would have started crying. And not saying I haven't. When I had to give him that grade, but yeah, we gave him a D. Matt Olson gets a D in the first half, and that pains me to say.
You know what pains me to hear is when you say Casey Kochman, Matt Olson, and you put the correlation there. And this season, you have to agree. For Braves fans who have tried to black out the memory of Casey Kochman, Kochman was the guy the Braves traded Mark Teixeira for. Mark Teixeira was a very, 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 very good first baseman. And Casey Kochman was a league average hitter with minimal pop and eye metric good defense, advanced metrics not so great defense, and that's been Olsen this year. I don't know what's going on. Like every game I watch him, and I don't have the same feeling I did in 2022 when I was really low on Matt Olson. And Matt Olson was way better in 2022. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I really have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and he'll go on earlier in June. It looked like he was back. And we talked about this too. I think going into the 2023 season when we started this podcast, we were both comparing him to a certain first baseman who used to play for the Braves, where we said it's going to be a different experience. The Matt Olson experience is a lot different than the other guy who played before. Freddie, I think.
Was it Derek Lee? Was Derek Lee the last
Lee.
first baseman for the Braves? Matt Adams?
Francisco Cervelli, I think, maybe.
Juan Francisco?
But
Chris
we
Johnson.
Yes. But we said Matt Olson, his swing was not slump proof. It is weird. It can go out of whack. It could, fly off the rails. His mechanics were not as repeatable as the other guy. And we said, he's going to go through, and even last year, he had a couple, very mini slumps. But the thing is, he was able to, right that by going on absolute tears. I mean, literally just homers in bunches. He's taking his walks. This season, it doesn't look like the same player. I mean, he literally does not look like the same player. Just some sobering comparisons to last season. 389 OBP in 2023, 317 this year. 604 slugging in 2023, 420 so far this season. And that's the, I will say 27 doubles last year, 21 this year. So, hey, we got a doubles machine. That's cool, I guess.
I think Casey Kochman was also a doubles machine.
Yeah, that he was. But the thing is, he hasn't had that 2-week torrid stretch to off-put his ever-increasing slumps. And it just, again, in June, it seemed like he was coming back. His swing was looking really good. He was timing up pitches. And now he's just late on everything. He's popping too many into the air. He's trying to go the other way in situations where, I just don't think he should. There was a game he played against the Diamondbacks where he was facing off against Thompson, the side armor, and I was like, this would be a great, I know he's a righty, but this would be a great situation for him to go to the opposite field. A runner was on, and no, he tried pulling a two-seamer going away from him, and he ended up, it was like a lazy fly out. It just, nothing about his mechanics look good right now. I mean, we could have gone really crazy and given him an F, but you know what? Still league average. I think an F is below league average.
F is
for
if
him.
he was playing like Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah, F is worst case. It's F should be as rare as A pluses. Anything else on Matt Olson?
No.
Next up, we have Ozzy Albies. Expectation, all-star second base with average, I'll just say a decent glove and a 115-ish WRC plus. Reality, the defense has not been there, and has not. And the bat, while average, has not hit expectations for a grade of a C-. You gave the grade on this one, so I'll let you back it up.
So Ozzy Albies, his defense has been declining for pretty steeply for a while now. You'd still expect him to be league average. Last year he had some weird metrics in April and May, and then it kind of graded out evenly afterwards. He's basically done the same thing defensively this year, where he was terrible in April and May, and now he's back to being average. Although there was a play against the Diamondbacks where I think it was Ketel Marte hit a ground ball, and it looked like it should have been an easy out, or at least you dive, you throw, and he just could not. His arm is too weak to make that throw.
Yeah.
Last season was his best season with the bat. I don't ever expect Ozzy Albies to hit, 30 some bombs, hit 30% better than league average, but you'd still expect him to be about a 115 WRC plus guy, maybe 120. This year he's been hovering around 100. His power is just gone. Uh, yeah, he hasn't been the Ozzy we expect. He got to a point in April, late April, where we're starting to wonder if those options at the back end, the very end of the team options, would even be picked up. Whereas a few years ago those would be no brainers. He's kind of averaged out, and I think a C minus reflects the the below average expectations, but the averageness overall. He hasn't
Yeah.
been bad, but not he hasn't been his normal self that we came to
I
expect.
I think it's time. We've had this discussion many a times on Braves Cast, but I think the it's time for a decision for whether he should hit right-handed full time. And these splits, I mean, pretty much kind of tell you the whole story against righties. So when he's hitting left-handed this year, he has a 225, 298, 352 slash line for a 650 OPS. It's bad. That's below league average. Against lefties as a right-handed hitter, 337, 350, 541 for an 891 OPS. The power is completely gone this year as a lefty. And I seriously think he would be a much better hitter if he just hit right-handed full time. The preparation as a switch hitter, it's a lot more. I mean, you have to be able to make sure both sides are getting equal treatment. And the fact is, I'm not going to claim that I know what his pregame routine is or anything, but I'm assuming when he's facing a right-handed pitcher, he takes more reps as a lefty in the cages and during batting practice. I think if he was a right-handed hitter full time, his OPS would sit around like 840, 850, which is like you mentioned Ketel Marte, like MVP possibly for this year numbers. So I C minus. I think is being a little generous, but also you have to understand. I mean, the next grade would be a D plus, which is really bad.
Yeah, I agree that it's kind of we're at a point where Ozzy should at least drastically reduce how much he hits left-handed, if not drop it altogether. I love the idea of switch hitting, but there's never been a hitter who's even from both sides. Like
Yeah.
I
Well,
kind of think that if Chipper Jones was just a right-handed hitter, he would have been 1.5 times better than he actually was as a switch hitter.
that's saying a lot. I mean, that's the thing too. You never know. I mean, you look at somebody like Adam Duvall this year, who has just completely struggled against righties, and for each player it's different. I mean, just there's some players who, when they're facing the same-handed pitcher, it's just that much harder to see the ball out of the hand. It's that much harder to see the spin and to react to it. So it's different for every hitter. But I think, I'm gonna plant my flag here. I say if there's a switch hitter, and let me do some counting real quick. There's a more than 200 point difference in their OPS, I say they should give up switch hitting.
Yeah, you gotta say where that difference is. Chipper Jones was kind of right around there,
Oh, that's crazy.
but he was such a good right-handed hitter.
Yeah.
So
Maybe.
his right, I never. This is a bit of a tangent. Chipper Jones's right-handed swing always looked so weird to me.
It did, yeah. He looks so closed
So I'm shocked
right-handed.
that he hit so well right-handed. Like in my head, I
It's
think
just
of Chipper
career
Jones
splits.
as a left-handed batter, and I was watching a clip of him the other day as a righty, and he doesn't look natural. Like I know
Yeah.
that's his natural side, but he looks so uncomfortable.
Okay. Okay. This is his career. Versus right-handed pitcher. Okay, yeah, he didn't do any weird stuff. Versus right-handed pitchers, he had a 947, and versus left-handed pitchers, he had an 889 OPS. So he was actually better as a left-handed hitter in his
Must have
career.
mixed it up. Okay.
And that's
Yeah.
that's a close split too. That to me is like a super close. Like to me, that if switch hitting worked for him. He was a good hitter on both sides. Ozzy is not a good hitter from the left side.
No.
He is like well below league average from the left side. Like almost unplayable. Like that's how bad it is. Anyway,
Yeah, I don't think you can convince me that Ozzy Albies as a righty versus a righty would be as bad as Ozzy Albies.
it wouldn't. It
right now
wouldn't.
as a lefty.
And the thing is, you see the at bats he takes as a lefty. He kind of took the approach that I was suggesting of being like just focusing more on contact, but it's just not working. Like you'll
what
see
you're
him.
telling me is Ozzy, for whatever reason, was like, I'm gonna listen to my preview on this podcast,
Yeah,
and he heard some guy named Cole go, "Hey Ozzy, if you're listening, you should try to hit more for contact." And he
yeah,
went,
shorten that swing.
forget what Kevin Seitzer tells me about hitting for power. I'm going to hit for contact. And now
Because you'll see
in
him.
July. We're in July, and he's
You'll
going,
see
what
him,
is going
and it
on?
looks intentional. It's not like he's taking defensive swings. It looks like he's intentionally shortening up his swing in those situations. Like that's like he goes into the at bat knowing he's going to try to squib it on the left side, and it's just not working. So yeah, Ozzy Albies C minus. I think it's time. Maybe not this season, but just over the off season, just have your buds throw ready to you and take some swings from the right hand side. Just see how it feels. Just see how it feels for you. Next up, we have Orlando Arcia. It's funny. We were skeptical of him going into the season, and then he has the hot start. Yeah, it was fueled by a lot of smoke and mirrors, but we were like, okay, he's playing exceptional defense. So, expectation, a league average bat while being an above average shortstop. Reality, I just put, hey, he's still an above average shortstop, but his bat is near unplayable, even with his defense, which has been steadily declining as the season has progressed. And we've given him a D, closer to a D minus than a D plus.
Orlando Arcia makes me want to turn off the game when I'm watching. At this point,
Yep.
It's like he's going to chase 4 sliders outside the zone, and he's barely going to make contact on one of those, probably like the strike 2 pitch, and the pitcher's going to go right back there. And even though he's seen the pitch 3 times, he still swings at it. Or you get a runner on first, and then he hits a ground ball, and it turns into a double play because he's one of the slowest players on the team.
Yeah.
And that almost happened. We watched so just spoilers, we're recording this on the 11th. Last night, he comes up, runner on first. Travis d'Arnaud had hit a single. He tries the bunt. I hate bunting. I can't stand bunting. It's one of the few instances where I'm like, yeah, he probably should be bunting because otherwise he's going to hit it into a double play. He gets strike 1. He whiffs on bunt 2. That looked terrible. He acts like he's going to bunt when there's 2 strikes, and thankfully it's a ball. And then he decides to swing, and had it not been for positioning, it would have been another double play. It's clockwork, and his defense has not been great. And when your bat is as bad as as it is right now, any defensive miscue, for me personally, is sending me over. So a couple nights ago in Arizona, it's a ball in no man's land, obviously. you can't expect a player to catch it. That's a tough catch. But instead of letting Eddie Rosario, who is on the team again, by the way, uh,
Will not
field
get
the
a
ball,
grade, by the way. Just
not
letting
get a
people know.
grade.
Yeah.
You'll have to listen to my Nationals podcast for that, the one that doesn't exist. He tries to barehand it, but he doesn't barehand it. He basically is blocking a shot, and it kicks into the outfield. Lets Perdomo get to second. They end up scoring. Could have cost them the game,
Yeah.
honestly. Thankfully, Sean Murphy. Wait, which game was this? It's the
It was
Sean
Monday
Murphy
night.
game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monday night.
Thankfully, Sean Murphy came to save the day, but that defensive miscue, even though he's normally solid, was one of those just I can't with this player right now. D is because we were pretty pessimistic that he would repeat from last year, and his defense has still been more or less good. But if it's just on the season, no expectations, no weight on that, this would be a F minus
Yeah.
for
Oh,
me.
yeah. No, I mean, and a take I had for most of the year when it was clear that his bat was just bad. It's not like he was going through a slump. It's just his approach has been awful. My take was, well, it shouldn't matter. We have the depth, we have the lineup depth to make up for it. As long as he's giving us exceptional defense, which he was giving us exceptional defense at the start of the year. I don't care. As long as he's not like, as long as he gets like a hit a week or something. But his defense has been slipping. His bat has been unplayable. You have a screen cap here from a Twitter user, Be Outlier Steven. Great Twitter account, by the way. Recommend giving them a follow. Over the last 70 games since mid-April, there have been 148 qualified players in Major League Baseball. Orlando Arcia ranks 148 out of 148 in F4 at -1, which, again, F4 does account for defense as well. So take that for what you will.
I'm not convinced that if defense didn't matter that much, you could put Max Fried at shortstop, left-handed shortstop Max Fried, and he'd hit better than Arcia, and his defense would not be bad enough to outweigh how bad Arcia has been as a hitter.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically been, it's been a pitcher spot. Our lineup is basically 8 hitters. And you have to be Ozzie Smith at shortstop to justify that. And even then, Ozzie Smith had speed. So, I mean, I feel like the D grade is just because we were very bearish on him going into the season. And, his defense at the beginning of the year was really good. I mean, he was 99th percentile for the first couple weeks, but it's been slipping, and it's becoming an issue. It's becoming a real issue for the Braves.
This is a spicy take because it's not enough.
Yeah. I think a lot of, because that's the thing, a lot of people would not even think twice about giving an F. But we have to give credit where credit's due. He was a really good defender for the first month this season.
He was a good hitter for the first week and a half.
Yeah, it's worth something, but he has not done anything since. That D might be when we post this on Twitter, I might make that a D minus, but we'll see. D to D minus
see how he
range.
hits the rest of the week.
Yeah, we'll see how he does in San Diego. Okay, we have 4 minutes left on this half. Do you think that's enough time to wax poetic about Jared Kelenic? Okay.
Yeah.
So Jared Kelenic, expectation, they varied. I mean, it could have gone so many places. At worst, an upgrade over Eddie Rosario. At best, the potential to be an all-star, even amidst a platoon that he was put in at the beginning of the year. Reality, somewhere in between, ? And we gave him a B+ on the season.
I think if you go back and listen to our preview on Jared Kelenic, we were like, he could be as good as a 130 WRC plus player who's an all-star. He will probably be a league average hitter with more or less league average defense. He also could be a below average player altogether. but he's been above the two most likely predictions where he's slightly below average as a hitter and where he's average as a hitter with below average defense. I thought it was crazy that Snicker put him in center when Harris went down. He's been good. He's been really
yeah.
good.
It's insane.
I thought it was crazy when Brian Snicker put him at the
He's been
leadoff
really good.
spot. He's been really, really good.
Yeah.
I think this is only a B plus, where the somewhere in between is, because he was working through a bunch of adjustments in April and May, and the
Had no power.
115 WRC plus that he currently has is being weighed down by what Cole was saying. Absolutely no power. When did he hit his first home run with the Braves? It wasn't until like
It was I
late
was
April.
at that game. It was against the Red Sox, so like early May.
May.
Yeah.
So no power, and still he's, I don't know. At the beginning of the season, I thought him not needing pressure would help him thrive, but it's like
Well,
been the opposite.
it's weird because like it's and that's what I was gonna say. His arc has been really satisfying to watch as a fan this season because he came into the year in a platoon role, like pressure to do like on himself to do well, but it's not like he was bottom of the lineup, kind of lost amongst the all stars and the MVPs and the Silver Sluggers, and doesn't really do that well. Oh, I mean, league average, doing all right. And then as the season's gone on, we've put more trust into him, and it seems like he's thrived. Like it's almost like having these just slowly building into that trust to now be, he's been an all-star center fielder for the last month of the season, which is, he's been a better hitter than Harris. Defense, he's been really good in center. I wouldn't say he's like elite or anything, but it's not like he's been bad. He's made some really, really good plays. Made them look pretty easy too. So we have 1 minute left. We have to rush on this. So I think the progression of the season, how it's gone on, and being able to acquire that trust and slowly but surely become the player that everyone thought he was going to be when he was first round draft pick. And it's been really something like special to see, and I'm genuinely excited to watch him day in, day out.
Yeah, every day.
All right, when we come back, we will finish off the surprises and then get to the pretty basic ones. So stay tuned. Bye. And we are back with the first half grades of the 2024 season. We're going to do our last spicy grade and then move on to all the ones that are very predictable and the no surprises. And this one, this is probably, I would say, our spiciest grade. And it's sort of, it's worse than Orlando Arcia's. And it's the way it is sort of like because we had opposite expectations for this player, where Arcia, we weren't super high on him going into the season. This player, we were. You were making a case that he would be a dark horse MVP candidate, and that was none other than Michael Harris II. Expectation was to build off his torrid stretch from June to the end of the 2023 season and to become a down ballot MVP candidate with elite center field defense and around, I put 130 OPS plus. I think to be an MVP candidate, you kind of, no matter where you play, like that's the minimum. Reality, a weekly hit ground ball to the second baseman. And the grade we gave him, a D-.
Man, you know what I've noticed about Michael Harris?
What?
If J-Rod is doing well, Michael Harris is doing well. If J-Rod is doing bad, Julio Rodriguez for the Seattle Mariners. If J-Rod is doing well, Michael does well. If J-Rod does poorly, Michael does poorly. J-Rod has been terrible this year. He was terrible in the first half last year. Michael was terrible in the first half last year. J-Rod was great in the second half of last year. Michael, I don't know. J-Rod maybe heating up, maybe not.
Maybe,
Michael, hopefully when he comes back.
They're connected through super hyped center fielders who
One rookie
got
of the year, or
one rookie of the year,
yeah,
got extensions that bought out their arbitration. J Rod obviously goes a lot. The breadth of his extension goes a lot deeper than Michael's. But yeah, I see it. There's like a connection there between them. And hey, you know what? J Rod's starting to heat up a little bit. So maybe when Harris comes off the IL, he is a different player. Yeah, I mean we were pretty much on the train that he comes up in 2022, exceeds expectations. I mean, even just because of his age, just because of his limited professional sample in professional ball, and 2023 gets injured, misses some time, comes back, struggles, and then from June until like the end of the season, I mean, he's like putting up MVP type numbers, and we're like, yeah, I mean, we got giddy, we were foaming at the mouth, we were excited, and this grade more reflects our disappointment that his approach just took a nosedive. A lot of chase. We always knew he had chase in his game, but we thought, he's getting older, he's getting more mature, he's going to improve upon it. It's gotten worse. Now, in all fairness, we did try to avoid grading players who are currently injured. That's why we don't have a grade for Ronald Acuna Jr. It just feels kind of weird. But we felt like Michael Harris had a large enough sample to be able to properly grade it for the first half.
and
But
he'll be back in the
and
few
that
weeks.
too, yeah. So
Yeah, I just the chase thing. I know that for players who come up with chase issues, it's not a easy thing to overcome. But my rationale for Harris and being really just bullish on Harris is that he didn't need to cut his chase rate by that much to be an elite player.
yeah,
He just needed to cut it down by like 5 or 10%, and he did not. I think when I last checked, it had been he had
and
a worse chase rate than last year.
yeah, and in seasons past, I mean, even when he's chasing it, I mean, there's some clips you can find of him hitting balls way out of the zone, like over 100 miles per hour. But the thing with this year is he was trying to pull everything. And like I don't have it up right now, but if you look at his hit direction, I mean, it is crazy. I mean, it's very sobering looking at it, and just you can that pretty much paints the whole picture on why he struggled this year. Let me see if I can quickly pull it up. Could have just gone Fangraphs. That probably would have been easier.
A lot of So I did an article on this a month or two ago where Harris on pitches that he's chasing. This was not. I was not looking at a spray chart at all, but there are some hitters who can do okay on balls out of the zone. Harris's issue one is that he is making contact with balls out of the zone. He's making weak contact on balls out of the zone. And then what Cole is saying too, he's hitting ground balls on balls out of the zone that are very easy for fielders to field and get him out. And because he's left-handed, he's pulling ground balls to second and first. That's not a recipe for success. Harris does a ton of damage on balls in the zone, and if you take balls and you put pitchers in bad counts, you'll get better pitches to hit. And Harris just hasn't gotten there yet. I'm still of the belief that he will eventually get his chase rate to around Ozzy Albies levels, and at that point, you have a very, very good player. This year was just not the year for that.
Yeah,
And it might be later.
And he's still like such a young player too. He's 23 years old. I mean, there's guys who have better prospect pedigrees who are still in the minors. I mean, this guy is on his third year of MLB service, so it is important to put into perspective. But the D- mostly just comes from the fact that we thought this was the year he was going to take his game to the next level, and unfortunately, he's taken a step back. again, I'm not worried about it. He's still a super talented player at the end of the day. He's just still got some issues he has to work on. So,
I
anything
would
else on
love for the
Harris?
Braves. So there's this machine called the Traject machine that it looks so good. It's a pitching machine that you can replicate nearly every pitcher in baseball to like the degree of spin that they'll have on their curveball. The Yankees are skipping Giancarlo Stanton's rehab assignment because they're like, oh, he doesn't play the field, and then he can just watch pitches on the Traject system anyway. Um, I would love it if the Braves, for the next week or two before he goes on rehab assignment, just lock him in the cage with the Traject system. I assume they have one. Most of the teams do, and the teams that don't are probably like the White Sox and the A's. Um, just lock him in the Traject system, make him see the best pitchers in baseball. Let him face Spencer Strider. You know, he's never going to, hopefully, ever face Spencer Strider. Let him see Spencer Strider, and tell him to Miggy Vargas it. Just don't swing at anything. Don't swing at a single pitch. He's going to take a lot of strikes. He's going to take a lot of balls, and maybe that will help with the pitch recognition. Because you know he can't run right now. He shouldn't be running that much. So maybe just seeing a ton of pitches without being able to swing can help him
Yeah.
like not swing in game times. Again, this is not we're not rooting against Michael Harris. We still are huge Michael Harris fans. I still believe, next year, later this year, things click. He becomes that star that we expect. But the D minus is just
It's
based on expectations.
it's like
and
watching your
results.
favorite TV show and being hyped for the new season, and then the season being a letdown. You're going to overreact to it. Like, you're going to, like, what happened to my favorite TV show, even if it's like an average season by most standards. You're disappointed as a fan, as like a diehard of it. So, yeah, that finishes our spicy takes. We're just going to quickly run through some of our no surprises. First one we have, and of course, Marcell Ozuna. Expectation to build off a bounce back 2023, but with the lingering fear that 2021-2022 seasons from the Big Bear could rear its ugly head. Reality, he's been our MVP. We gave him an A. The only reason it's not an A+ is just because he has slowed down a bit in the last couple weeks. To me, if his OPS was like still, and as a DH, it's kind of, there's the margin for error is so slim. If his OPS was still like starting with a 1 dot, yeah, A+ easily. But I think an A is like still a really good grade for him.
I still can't believe he carried this offense for 2.5 months without
Yeah.
slowing down at all. Like the slowdown was expected. You expect hitters to slow down eventually, have peaks and valleys. We're just now getting to a little bit of a valley for Ozuna, and it took until late June, early July for us to get there.
We
Absolutely crazy ride.
we are. I mean, his. I just have his baseball reference WAR up here, 2.7. I genuinely believe if we don't have Ozuna, we are hovering around 500, not even above it. I don't even think that's a guarantee.
Yeah, I mean he was the only guy hitting for like two whole
Yeah,
months.
I mean he was our
Pretty
whole
much
offense.
the only reliable
Um,
offensive person.
I don't. Well, actually, okay, I'm not going to use that stat. Never mind. Yeah, yeah. He's just been good. He's just been really really good this year. Next up, we have Adam Duvall, who was a late signing. Was supposed to platoon with Jared Kelenic, provide some outfield depth. We have here expectation of 105 WRC plus bat with solid
Platt.
defense. Platt, thinking of Ben Platt from
Yeah.
that musical. Anyway,
Later.
reality, not even close with either. He has just been awful against right-handed pitching. You know what? I mean, he was sort of thrust into a role that he didn't. He wanted to be an everyday player. He was looking for an everyday contract. I think the only reason he really signed with the Braves was because, well, it's the Braves. I mean, we have
No,
we
it's
do have a
because of
loyalty.
Blooper. He 100%
Yeah,
signed with because
yeah,
of Blooper.
Blooper. His son was like, Dad, can I see Blooper? What's this like? I don't like Blooper being green. That freaks me out. Can we get like real Blooper back? And he was like, okay, whatever. But I mean, so it's weird. You can't necessarily say he was thrust into a role where he didn't expect to be because he wanted to be a starter this year and he got it, and he's not really proven that he's at this point in his career that he's a viable starter. I'm sort of at the fear that he's reached the performance cliff, which has struck so many players, past, present, and future. Or DJ LeMahieu, just players who, they lost a little bit of bat speed. They lost just one tick of their game, and they don't have anything to make up for it. And I'm a little worried that that's sort of where Ab Duvall is in his career right now. Any more thoughts?
He has done better as of this month. I mean, he still has like a 60 WRC plus though, so definitely way below expectations. And if we are at that point with Adam Duvall, he's had a really good run. It looked like 2018 might be it for him. The Braves acquired him. He didn't hit a single home run. He hit like 111. He spent most of 2019 in the minors. Like, for him to be a MLB player for, I think this is his 12th season in Major League Baseball. A guy who only hits for power and has much better defense than anyone could ever imagine. He's had a great career.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that this hot streak that he's been on for a week is more real than not. But at this point, at the All-Star break, he is playing to not get released. Like, that is everything he's trying to do right now. Is when Anthopoulos makes that move, is Duvall the casualty? And that's what he's playing for the next two weeks, and that's tough too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, we'll see. I mean, again, you're right on point. I mean, hell of a career. The way he was able to extend it. I forget he was on the Giants too. I mean, I just to me he's had two different careers. Like in my mind, like Giants, Reds, and then post Braves, and all the teams he played on. He was on the Marlins too. That's crazy. Like, I can't even picture that anymore. But again, if this is it, great career. We'll see. I mean, the thing I'm a little worried about though is if he does figure it out for 2 weeks, what happens if he goes back to what he was doing in June? Like, that's always a fear. Like, I almost kind of want him. I don't want to say, like, I love him so much. I love Duvall. Like, he's one of my favorite players. So I don't want to say, like, I hope he plays poorly, but I'm just a little afraid that, like, he's going to put up a 2 week stretch and then that's it. Like, that's, August, September, we're talking like a sub 80 WRC plus.
I think a Duvall resurgence is more sustainable than an Eddie Rosario resurgence.
Yeah, 100%. Eddie Rosario is like 100% just like a temporary fix. I do not think Alex Anthopoulos is looking at Eddie Rosario right now and be like, yep, that's who we're gonna have on our roster in October.
The Braves have a
Hopefully.
weird situation too, where they have to acquire a guy, and we'll have a trade deadline preview. So this is just a little bit of an aside. They need to acquire an outfielder, but they also are banking on Harris coming back. And Jared Kelnick has now earned full-time play.
Yeah.
So really, they have, after probably like August 1st, August 2nd, whenever Harris comes back in that first week of August, or even earlier, they have right now 2 holes in the outfield. But they need to fill one. One will be filled. But then they also have Duvall, Rosario, Brian Anderson, Ramon Laureano, all still on the team. So then they have to figure out what to do with them. Laureano played really well in his 1 week before he got injured and disappeared.
Again, playing well 1 week in July doesn't mean you're going to play. And I'm a huge Ramon Laureano fan, but even I'm like, I would not feel comfortable if that's the guy that we choose going forward. So yeah, we'll get into that. It's a lot trickier situation this year than it was in 2021. I would say there's a lot more moving parts, just a lot more. Like 2021, it was like, okay, we have freaking Abraham Almonte like playing full like that is an easily replaceable role. And now there's a bunch of players who like can be full-time, can be full-time contributors,
Have
but
been full-time contributors.
yeah,
Almonte had never been a full-time guy.
he's
Guillermo
always
Heredia
just
had never been really a full-time guy.
yeah.
Those
So
were extreme stopgaps. All of
yeah,
the guys we have now had been at one point very recently
yeah,
everyday
the
players.
calculus is a lot more complex. Anyway, just moving on. We have Travis Darno, expectation backup catcher, clubhouse leader, reality backup catcher that had to start for 2 months, did decently. B plus. I think a lot of people would think this grade is high, but I think it's a fair grade. What would you?
I think
You were the one who gave this one, so
yeah, I think there are some people expect Travis Darno to hit like he did in 2020 and 2022. He's not going to. And then there are other people, me, who look at, oh man, he had to start a lot more games than he expected to start. So even though he's not hitting like he used to, covering that 2 month span where he went from expecting to start once every 3 days to starting 3 out of 4 days pretty much for 2 months. It's a lot of workload. He wasn't, fantastic. He did have a 3 homer game. Still blows my
it's a great
mind.
game. Yeah,
Um, but he did his job. He was good. He kept the catcher position down. He could have easily, he's at the age where that many starts in a week kind of wear down on you. He was able to hold it up. Now Murphy's back, and you have that whole weird playing time thing.
but I mean,
yeah, he's good. Good.
yeah, still league
B plus.
average.
Good.
Yeah. Next we have Raisel Iglesias. Expectation: a solid if not spectacular closer. Reality: a solid if not spectacular closer. I have some beef to pick with anti Iglesias. I said we gave him a B plus. Yeah, we gave him a B plus. I have a bone to pick with some anti Iglesias. He's only blown 2 saves this season. One of them was the game against the Marlins, where I have these up right now. Cool. Where Matt Olson made the error that cost them the lead. They ended up winning that game anyway. Let me see if I have it here. And then the second game was extra innings against the Dodgers. He gave up a single to Shohei Ohtani, only 1 run. Like, we only scored 1 run in the top of the inning. Shohei Ohtani, like, it's like, dude, you're facing Shohei Ohtani in extra innings, and you only gave up a single against him, and that was the only run you gave up. Well, let me actually make sure before I say that with confidence. Yeah, that was only, it wasn't even an earned run because it was the ghost runner on second. That's it. Those are the 2 blown saves he's had on the season. 2.08 ERA. You know what? I mean, look, you can say his FIP is nearly 3. He doesn't strike out hitters at like a huge rate or anything. Actually, his K per 9 is below 9. But you know what? Comes in the game, does what he needs to do. I think he's been everything we need out of the closer role. Is he the sexiest closer out there? No. Like, in a world with Mason Miller, Emmanuel Clase, Joe and Duran on the Twins, yeah, he's kind of a boring closer. But you know what? He's been solid. B plus. I would even argue like an A minus, but I think he's been really good for this team.
I firmly believe Iglesias is not the best reliever on the team. So the traditional brain me goes, why is he the closer then? Why do we trust the 9th inning to him all the time? But then I have to step back and remind myself that this is actually really good, that Iglesias is not the best reliever on the team, because Snicker looks at him as a closer. He thinks he's the best reliever on the team. He uses him as the best reliever on the team in the traditional sense, the closer spot. But there are so many positions in the middle innings, 7th, 8th, even 6th inning, that have higher leverage for relievers, and that's where other guys come in and they do a great job, and it all works out. We're all happy most of the time, where our other relievers who are probably better than Iglesias shut down those innings, and Iglesias comes in and saves the game because the other relievers didn't blow the 2-run lead earlier. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree. B minus now that we're talking this through, or A minus now that we're talking this through. Iglesias does his job. He's not Mason Miller. I would love to see 103-mile-an-hour fastballs just like make hitters look foolish, but he's good enough and definitely hasn't fallen short of expectations.
Next up, we have Jesse Chavez. Expectation coming into the season. A Swiss Army knife. Well, really, I mean, he was a late signing. I mean, he was like on the Twins for a day. I mean, he signed with the White Sox, and then they were like, he had like a 32 ERA or something with them. Signed with the Twins for the day. They're like, we don't really want you. We pick him up. Expectation, a Swiss Army knife reliever who can be used in anywhere from mop-up duty to high-leverage situations while continuing the tale of a pitcher who is only good for one franchise. Reality, possibly having one of the best seasons for a 40-year-old reliever ever. I tweeted this about a few days ago. I have best ERA plus for relievers 40 years or older, MLB history. We have Don McMahon at 263 in 1973. Number 2, Jesse Chavez with the 247. Now, that number's changed. Actually, I think it's gone better. I don't think he allowed an earned run. I think he inherited some runners when he came in against the Diamondbacks. And then we have like Mariano Rivera for a few seasons too. Hoyt Wilhelm, who is a great reliever back in the 60s. Doug Jones, who was a great reliever in the 90s. Yeah, I mean, he's outdoing himself. Like, as a Brave, we gave him a grade of an A+++++. He should have been an all-star in my mind. He is a clubhouse leader. I mean, he loves the Braves. He loves this franchise. He's kind of like with Bryce Harper in Philadelphia. That Jesse Chavez, he's that for Atlanta. So great season.
Same level of stardom too. You got Bryce Harper and Jesse Chavez.
Could you imagine if they faced each other in the All-Star game? Like, they probably wouldn't.
How would that work out?
It would not work out.
How would that work?
It would not work out. Oh,
we'd have to trade up to the White Sox for the day.
I didn't even think about that. What's funny? I haven't watched an All-Star game since like I was a kid. Like I have not cared about the All-Star. I love the home run derby. Like I think the home run derby is like the real fun. And then if there was a skills competition, I would watch that 100%. The All-Star game.
You need to watch the KBO All-Star game.
Yes, I've seen a couple clips from it. Like we need a bunting competition.
Well, they killed the bunting competition in Korea like 7 years ago.
We still need it here.
We still need it.
Yeah.
Jesse Chavez is one guy where I look at FIP and then go, FIP is wrong. Like, just ignore that.
Yep.
His strikeouts are back. I am only half kidding when I say that the Braves need to retire number 60 after he retires. He's just been such a legend for 4 years. And I always wonder what it's like to be him, where you're a journeyman reliever for 12 years. And then suddenly you come to this team, basically your last shot at MLB, and then fans are suddenly your biggest, like you have a fandom. You have Jesse Chavez fans all of a sudden. And then you keep getting traded away or going away, and you keep coming back, and the fans always embrace you. I want to meet Jesse Chavez just to say thank you for everything he's done for the past, 3+ years now? Should have been an all-star.
I'm trying to. I won't be able to do it in time. He has 7.2 career reference WAR, and like more than half of that has been as a Brave. That just gives you an idea. I mean,
and he used to be a starting pitcher. So.
Yeah, I mean it's just like you look at his best seasons by ERA plus. Well, one came in a short stint for the Cubs. Oh. But the rest of them for Atlanta, he's been awesome. And, again, everything we need him to be and more. Moving on, we have Austin Riley. I just put expectation, Austin Riley. He's been so consistent. I mean, really, for the last 3 full seasons, he's kind of just put up the same year over and over again. Down ballot MVP. His defense has been getting better, and we expect it to get better coming into the season. Reality, Austin Riley, who had an even worse start than his 2021, but has had a nice bounce back, primed for a huge second half. He's been, at this point, we can just say like outright, he's been a slow starter every season. 2022, I think he started out pretty well, but beginning of 2023, he started out cold. Obviously, 2021 when he like was almost like felt like he was going to get cut from the team or sent down. The grade we gave him was a B minus. I mean, he's really heated up recently. I mean, if the last 2 weeks didn't happen, that grade would shoot down. I mean, it would probably be more like a D plus. But I mean, he's been awesome, and it looks like he's going to have. I mean, he's already having like another amazing July, and it looks like he's just going to keep producing until the end of the season.
Yeah, I messaged the house that Hank built group chat a few days ago, and I was like, I've seen enough. Austin Riley's going to be a Hall of Famer at this point. There's nothing that makes sense about him. He should
Yeah,
not be this good. He should not be getting better every year. Uh, his slow start this year, I think, was partially due to an injury that the Braves just refused to put him on the IL for. It
yeah,
never made sense why they didn't. He definitely needed like a week of
rehab.
rehab starts
Yeah,
that they didn't give him. Because if you take away that week and a half, 2 weeks where he was just Zach Short, pretty much, he's been really good since coming back from injury, aside from that basic rehab stint that he would have needed to do. Um, yeah, B minus only because he had a slow start and then the injury and then being really, 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 really bad after the injury.
Since the Tampa Bay Rays series, which is where his season started to turn around, he has a 352 batting average, 431 OBP, 761 slugging. And this is over a month too. I mean, this isn't like a small sample anymore. Um, it's 162 game average of 58 homers, 117 RBI, and 58 doubles, also 200 hits as well. So, I mean, he's been like that was I would say better than Marcel was doing. So
And imagine Austin Riley doing that for a full year.
he could. I think he could.
I think he could.
Like he's shown just. And again, I mean, he was playing hurt in my mind. He was playing hurt while also basically rehabbing at the major league level. I think we could even bump it up to a B, but we'll keep it at a B minus just because even before he got hurt, he was really struggling too. And again,
The problem with the Austin Riley grade is every day he just continues to go 3 for 4.
yeah,
And so that grade needs to bump up every day that we
yeah, his
don't.
outside above average is at 0 right now. I swear it was like at like 3 like a week ago. But I think the eye test he's been better. Like he's never gonna have insane range. Like he's never gonna have the range of like a Matt Chapman or Nolan Arenado. But I think he's a good defensive third baseman. I mean, Snitker or somebody was saying like he could win a Gold Glove one day. It'd have to be a pretty tough year for just third baseman across the league for that to happen. But he's been getting better at it too. I mean, he's been improving. I mean, you go back to 2022 and he was at -7. So he's been getting better, progressively better every year. And that was the one part of his game that was lagging behind. So yeah, B minus, cool with that. We might have to make this into 3 parts. Dang, we might have to really make this 3 parts, which we will. Next up, we have Joe Jimenez. The expectation coming into the season: a high leverage reliever. Reality: a high leverage reliever. A minus. I mean, I know he had a tough outing against the Diamondbacks, but it felt more kind of just his usage was a little out of whack. And I mean, he's had some tough outings, and every time it just seems like he gets cursed by the BABIP gods. There was that one outing against the Guardians where, I mean, they got like 3 straight hits off of balls that collectively went like 40 miles per hour. So
I seared that from my brain. Yeah. And then there was the one against the Padres where he allowed 4 runs and nothing was hit. I don't think he allowed a homer in that. So it wasn't like he was getting hammered. But yeah, for the most part, he's had a few bad games. Pitchers have bad games. Otherwise, he's been really good. Exactly what you'd expect from Joe Jimenez.
then we have Aaron Bummer. Expectation: a medium leverage reliever. Reality: a medium leverage reliever with weird BABIP luck. We gave him a B minus.
Yeah, he's that BABIP luck. Just the first part of the season, I think that was like the first 5 games. He just could not pitch a game without allowing a run or two.
Yeah,
He didn't pitch bad. couldn't not allow a run. Then he had a nice long stretch where he was really good, and then he's had a few games, I think, recently where he's been off or on. Overall, though, like if you look at that trade, if you were to go back and say, here are these players' seasons up to date, here's Aaron Bummer's season up to date, do you still want to make this trade? You'd say, yeah. Like, it's been a good trade. He's been good. Some more rough spots than you would like, but yeah, he had to be a setup man for
He's
a month.
He's more fun to watch than Jared Schuster. I'll say that. Next up, we have Pierce Johnson. Expectation, a high leverage reliever. Reality, a high leverage reliever. Again, well, we give him an A minus. Again, our bullpen. I mean, it really cannot be more overstated how good our bullpen has been. I think bullpens are always going to be underrated, just because, like, they're expected to, I mean, they're expected to come like, and we're working on the replacing Mariano video. I've realized just how tough it is to be a reliever. Not knowing when your next appearance is going to be, even in game. I mean, there's times where literally one swing can change whether you're pitching or not. It is not an easy job, and you're expected to maximize every single pitch that you throw, and you're put in some uncomfortable situations. I mean, I'm even thinking about, and we didn't grade him just because not a big enough sample, but even Grant Holmes coming in with the bases loaded and 0 out, and like the worst situation you could come into in a tie game, no less. And just, yeah, here you go. Here's the ball. Like, try your best here. So they're always going to be underrated. People are always going to knock on bullpens because they're going to lose games for you. It's just a reality of the sport. But I think our bullpen just overall has been, I would say, like a B plus, an A minus at best.
Yeah, I would not want to be a reliever. You have to. The expectation is perfection, and if you allow a run in a close game, you're done. Like,
Yeah.
people hate you. I think the only way a reliever who is not a closer gets immortality status or like gets respect even is if you're Tyler Matzik and you come in with runners on second and third in a playoff game with no out and you don't allow a run.
Yeah.
Like,
and imagine there you go.
I was just going to say, if Matzik had come in with, 2 outs in that same situation, we would not view him in the same way we do. And that's a really rare exception for a reliever who is not a closer.
They're always, and again, just work on the video. They're always on the other side of teams' highlights. Like when you go into the stadium, you look on the jumbotron, and you see all the clutch hits. You see the late inning magic. It's always a reliever you see on the receiving end. So their jobs are like as close to as impossible. I mean, they always say hitting is the hardest thing to do in sports. That is true still, but I think having to come into a tight situation and be expected to get out of it is a close second.
I think we have enough time for Bryce Elder, and then
yeah. Last for this part, and then we're going to go into part 3 where we'll finish off the starters, which notice very not surprising grades for them. Bryce Elder, expectation a 5th starter. Reality, not even that. He was in the minors when the season started. Yeah, he was in the minors when the season started. So it's so weird thinking about him and Reynaldo Lopez battling for the 5th starter role. Like in July of this year, that is like crazy to think about. But yeah, I mean, he's pretty much been what he was at the end of last season. You would kind of, I mean, I hate to say this about a person, but it's like you would kind of hope that he would at least like fake it long enough where he'd be like at least a valuable trade piece. I don't know any team that would, unless he's just kind of a guy to eat innings for a team like the Oakland Athletics who need guys to eat innings. Anything else on Bryce Elder?
They should have traded him for Juan Soto while they had the chance. I don't know if that ever even came up, but on one end, I'm happy we have Chris Sale, but if in the moment I could have made that trade, I would have traded Vaughn Grissom, Bryce Elder, you name it, in the Braves organization for Juan Soto last July. Oh well, yeah, he was supposed to, even after Strider was injured, you'd think that he would have locked that down, but he was part of the problem. So yeah, D minus. I haven't given up on Elder completely, but it's been rough.
Yeah. He was an all-star last year. Just crazy how quickly. And you know what? Everybody was right. You know, we were definitely drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, oh man, he can sustain this. You know, he's just gonna get hitters to pound the ball into the dirt. But no, you know it. The nerds eventually are always going to be right. Unfortunately, when we come back, we'll finish off the grades, and then we'll grade the Braves season so far. So stay tuned for that. Okay, we were back with the third part. Me and Mitchell spent like 20 minutes talking about YouTube, so we're gonna have to kind of rush through some of these grades. Next up, we have Max Fried. Expectation, more of the same from our number one starter in his walk year. Reality, more of the same from our number one starter in his walk year, but with the caveat that he was horrible in his first two starts and is still posting numbers, and yet is still posting numbers in line with his career. I'm not going to lie, like the stain of those first two starts I thought would be mostly erased in July, but he's had a couple other rough outings. He had that one in Boston. I think it was like he allowed 4 earned runs. So we gave him a B. Again, like still passing. Like, I was a B student in high school, and, my parents still like accepted me at the end of the day. Same thing with Max Fried. Like, we still accept him. Like, he's still been amazing. I wouldn't say he's necessarily been like a number one starter, but you look at his line and like you take that all the way home. Any thoughts on Max Fried?
Yeah, I'm gonna hate to see him on another team next year.
There's like two routes for that. It's like one part of me wants to see him on the Angels because at least like he can't hurt us on the Angels, but another part of me would be so depressed like seeing him like same thing with Ron Washington. Like, obviously the stakes are different, but it just seems like Ron Washington is like throwing out all of his credibility with like every day that goes by and like every awful press conference he's had. I mean, like you could make a compilation with some of the awful post-game interviews he's put up as the Angels manager in his first year. I really hope he doesn't go to the Dodgers. That's the only realistic team that I would be like genuinely just depressed seeing him in the Dodgers uniform.
Max Fried, we love Max Fried. He hasn't necessarily been the ace, but man, that Dodgers press conference, I think I'm going to need to lock myself in the apartment for a few days to get over.
Yeah, I mean, especially just with like Freddie. But again, like I said, if he goes to a team that can't hurt us, and I'm like, but that's just, it's going to be sad. It's like seeing your favorite player
would love
go
to
to
see
like
him on
irrelevancy.
the Yankees.
That'd be fun. I would be okay with that. Be kind of weird him completely clean shaven though. Like
he's been mostly clean shaven though.
Yeah, but I've kind of gotten used to the little like goatee that he's been rocking the past couple of years. But yeah, I mean, and I have some friends who are Max Fried haters, and actually with our friend and that's baseball, there's a group chat I'm in with him where every time Max Fried posts a good start, I'll be like, hey, Jacob, do you like apples? And then post his line and just be like, how about them apples? Haven't been able to post an apples line in a minute. He's had a couple just rough outings, most recently against the Phillies too. But again, a 1.30 ERA plus. You look at the FIP and you're not that impressed. But again, just like Jesse Chavez, can't believe I'm comparing Max Fried to Jesse Chavez. Like his game, I mean, it is about limiting homers. It is about limiting walks, but he's not going to strike out a ton. I mean, his strikeout per 9 is a little bit lower than his career average, 7.8. But he's still been, I mean, he's put up some really, really good starts, and he's been one of the reasons we have the record that we have. Anything else?
All right. No, the next one on the list is the one that I'm so stoked to talk about.
I'll let you take the lead on
Yeah.
this.
So coming into the season, we were, I think, relatively high on the Chris Sale trade. A lot of Braves fans were like, ah, he's washed. Red Sox fans were like, ah, he's washed. We got Vaughn Grissom. You and I think, were like pretty rational. We're like, if he's healthy, he still pitches really well.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think you or I could have predicted
I
what he's done.
think we were thinking he would be posting the numbers that Max Fried is posting right now, minus the like strike. Like you would do it differently, but just the surface numbers, the ERA plus, like would look very similar to what Max Fried is posting currently. He's gone way
Yeah,
above expectations.
he is the NL Cy Young front runner right now. He
Yeah.
has put up 3.5 WAR already as a starter. He's been going into the seventh inning. His bad starts are his pitch count got a little too high and he allowed 2 runs. He's had one bad start really, maybe two. He had a weird start against the Marlins in April. He had a bad start against the A's in June. Other than that, he has been an ace. Like full stop. He's been
Yeah.
top 3, top 5 pitcher in all of baseball.
And not only that, he's evoking the spirit of one Randy Johnson, who is my favorite pitcher of all time. Took the number 51 because number 41 was retired, Eddie Matthews. And I mean, he's looked a lot like the big unit in a Braves
Randy
uniform.
Johnson is one of those players. There are a lot of players from the early 2000s from when I was a kid that I just didn't appreciate. Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, Barry Bonds. The guys where I look back and go, man, I watched them play. They're not guys that I'm like, I never got to see prime Ken Griffey Jr. So I can't be mad that I didn't appreciate prime Ken Griffey Jr. I got to see really good versions of Randy Johnson and Pedro Martinez and Barry Bonds, and just didn't appreciate them. But watching Chris Sale pitch, Cole is right. It's like watching Randy Johnson pitch. I can appreciate Randy Johnson more now because I see what Chris Sale is doing today.
Yeah.
And he's also filled a hole in my heart that was just taken out on April 4th, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, like, as baseball fans, we can admit that, like, watching good hitters is a lot just more fun than watching good pitchers. You know, like, we just kind of like offense. I think that's true for every sport, really. Randy Johnson. Chris Sale is the exception to that rule. He is so fun to watch. His slider, when it's going good, it literally starts in the left-handed batter's box and comes like way inside to righties. I mean, you get some disgusting looking swings, like in the best way possible, against both righties and lefties. His fastball is still like around 95, 96. He and Reynaldo, who we'll get to in a bit, have both opted for the approach of gearing up, like, and understanding the situation. You know, like you're not going to see him pulling out 96, 97 with the bases empty or against like a 7, 8, 9 hole hitter. But when he really needs to, he can gear up and get you some heat. He's really, I mean, again, just like Spencer, I mean, he's really done it based on 2 pitches with the occasional changeup. And he's, you know what? I'm going to say something else here. I was thinking about this. I was debating on whether I should say this or not. Wins are a stupid stat. But that's not the thing I'm going to be controversial about. Just like with FIP, there are some pitchers who I believe genuinely it matters to. And I had this thought when I was watching the Braves broadcast on Apple TV, and they were interviewing Chris Sale, and they mentioned he had 11 wins on the season, and he smirked in a way that like he really appreciated hearing that. Like he really genuinely like was like, yeah, like I have 11 wins on the season. There are some pitchers in my mind who make their team play better. And I also had this thought too, because when I was watching the last game I was at, I forgot who we were playing. I don't know why I keep thinking Tigers. I don't think it was the Tigers though. He was in the dugout. He was starting. He was in the dugout, and he was just, I mean, like the hype man for this team. I mean, he's giving everybody high fives. I mean, he's just like taking up with his long arms like the entire dugout, just like hyping. I mean, just dude looks so like he looked like he was like about to like go to the club, and I genuinely think there are pitchers where like they expect a level of perfection from their team, both defensively and offensively, when they're on the mound. They just expect it to be reciprocated. I think Chris Sale is one of those guys. I think he just, there's going to be no way to quantify it, and this is a totally, boneheaded take, but I do genuinely believe that there are some pitchers who just bring the best out of their team, and Chris Sale is one of those pitchers. I know it's stupid. Wins, I understand wins are a meaningless stat, but just seeing his face light up when they mentioned that he had 11 wins, in July, like, it does matter. Like, I know it doesn't matter to us because, we're fans who, either flamed out anywhere from D3 to Little League, but I do genuinely believe it matters to some guys. Like, it matters to most players, and Chris Sale is like the shining example.
I don't necessarily have anything to add to that part, but I do have something to add to the wins. I don't pay attention to pitchers' wins. I had no idea what Chris Sale's career pitch wins were until I wrote an article about this season kind of being a mark where Chris Sale is back in the Hall of Fame conversation. He was 100%. Out of it, but now he's back in it.
Yeah.
And some commenter on Facebook commented, "No shot. He only has 130 wins." And I was like, what?
That's so
Chris
stupid.
Sale is one of the best pitchers of this generation. If it wasn't for all of those injuries for 4 years, a lot of fluky injuries too, like breaking your pinky on a comebacker or falling off of a bike, he would be in the Hall of Fame conversation. And this dumb commenter, I think Chris Sale still has 4 or 5 seasons left. 130 wins, no shot. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I want Chris Sale to have, 20 wins this season, 25 wins next season, 30 wins the next season, just so that commenter can look at the end of the day when Chris Sale retires and goes, "Oh, 235 wins. I guess that's a Hall of Fame pitcher."
That's a lock. I wasn't convinced. Yeah, they got his 200th win, and yep, that's a Hall of Fame right there. I know one when I see one.
Not the best K through 9 in history of baseball.
Yeah,
whatever.
He's just, I mean, he's so fun to watch. He's so animated out there. There was a cool moment with him and Alec Thomas where I didn't know this. Alec Thomas's dad was the strength and conditioning coach for the White Sox, so he actually like knew him when he was like a kid, when he was coming up for the White Sox. Not a kid. Well, I don't know how old Alec Thomas is, but he was young. And Alec Thomas is like smiling, like you could kind of tell like this is like a surreal moment for him facing like this guy that he looked up to. Chris Sale did not care. He struck him out in 3 pitches. Like he's just, he makes, I'm not saying Alec Thomas is like an elite hitter or anything, but he makes some of the most like elite hitters on the planet look like kids.
Yeah, I was doing I was helping a TikTok. The baseball doesn't exist TikTok, and we had to find clips, and he made Rafael Devers, who is a very good hitter, look like a little leaguer on one of those swings. I mean, just we could have an entire podcast where we talk for 40 minutes just how much Chris Sale has meant to us this season.
Yeah, we probably will.
I do think we have to move on, sadly.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes left here. We'll quickly go through. Well, we'll spend some time on this guy and then quickly go through the last two. Renato Lopez. Expectation, a mix-up between a spot starter to shore up the 5th spot in the rotation and a right-handed weapon out of the bullpen. Reality, our other Cy Young candidate. This, I mean, honestly, we have A+. This might be like another just like A++++ grade. Like, I didn't think about it until we were talking about Bryce Elder. I'm like, yeah, like he was, like we were having conversations, legitimately having conversations, Renato Lopez versus Bryce Elder for the 5th spot in the rotation. And Renato Lopez is going to get, unless like something unforeseen happens, knock on wood, he's going to get Cy Young votes. Insane.
Definitely see the regression that Lopez will have eventually, but he's been a lock for 5 innings, 1-run ball lately.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to take you deep into the game, but we don't need that. I think the Braves have done a great job at making sure they don't overtax Lopez. after being a reliever for so long. And I admittedly did not think he would be a starter coming out of spring training. Like when they signed them and they were like, "Oh, he's going to be a starter." I thought that was just, talk. The
Yeah.
organization's trying to, psych the other teams
The
out.
Has this been a theme? I know we have like 8 minutes left, but has this been a theme this year with teams bringing relievers into the starting rotation of actually like it working out? Because now that I think about it, Garrett Crochet on the White Sox and then Jordan Hicks on the Giants.
Yeah. I feel like we did a TikTok on that.
It might be. I mean,
We
I
did
just
something on mile an hour like decreases
yeah,
where the three pitchers with the worst drops in velocity were guys who went from relieving to starting and were dominating. I think there's a TikTok in there somewhere.
yeah.
But
That seems like something I
yeah,
saw from BD.
definitely a trend. I don't know. I still can't explain or like try to comprehend. I've kind of just let it be. Every time Ronaldo Lopez starts, I just try not to think about it.
Yeah, I
Where
mean his
he shouldn't be this good, but
yeah
he's come through.
his pitching hasn't been like he hasn't been as like viscerally exciting as Chris Sale, which is really funny because like just on the surface, Chris Sale has a 150 ERA plus, which is great. Renato Lopez is at 242. Now, obviously, Chris Sale pitches deeper into games. He gets more strikeouts. And that's the thing. Like, none of Renato, maybe besides the homers per nine, and I'm just looking at reference. Like, I just going to stay away from Savant while we're just having these conversations. But nothing about some of the surface underlying stats, like, stand out to you. I mean, his hits per nine, 6.7. Like, that's pretty good. Walks per nine, like 3.4. Like, that's a little high. That's probably why he hasn't been able to pitch deep into games. But again, he's somebody where the Braves' philosophy this year, pitch like up your stuff, like up your velocity, your intensity when runners are on base. Like understand your situations. I mean, I know the Washington Nationals got a lot of crap for the. I don't care how quickly how fast you throw a ball forward, but like it's kind of been a low key the philosophy for the Braves, not necessarily in that way, but just in like you don't need to be throwing 99 miles per hour to their number 8 hitter. Like
Yeah,
you
I
just
mean,
don't need to do that.
I think we kind of glazed over this when we were talking about the bullpen, but a lot of teams have bullpen arms, three or four or five of them who just all throw 100 plus or 98 plus. The Braves bullpen isn't that.
None of those.
You've got curveball specialist Pierce Johnson just chucking curveballs. They can't hit it. AJ Minter throws his cutter more than his fastball. The Braves aren't really a velocity based team. Like they kind of let Spencer Strider do his own thing, but
I'm gonna do a Statcast search. I'm actually like curious where each team ranks in terms of like number of balls thrown over 100 miles per hour. Because I would not be
wager the Braves are
would be
middle
bottom
of the pack, if not low.
Yeah, I would say like around like 20 to the 25 range. This is actually gonna be a really fun.
Yeah,
query.
I don't know if we have guys who throw 100 in general.
Yeah, we did. Then he grew an extra bone, which needed to be removed. Man,
Spencer Strider starts. You know what I watch every month is that 16K start against the Rockies.
Oh man,
what I would have done to have Brendan Gaudin call that game.
Yeah.
Anyway,
last one we
Ronaldo
have.
Lopez has been great. Yeah,
A plus. Last pitcher. Uncle Charlie. Expectation: a mix between 2022 and 2023 Charlie Morin. Reality: a mix between 2022 and 2023 Charlie Morin. But weirdly enough, having a Jekyll and Hyde season, I noticed this when I was looking at his game logs. He's had some like really really good like dominant starts, and then he's just had some like awful ones, like a couple, like a few like absolute stinkers. Grade C plus. Like I would say he's getting up there in age. Like there's a world where he experiences his own performance cliff. And he's even grappled with it too. Like he had an interview earlier this year where he was like, I don't really know what kind of pitcher I am anymore. Cause like I don't have like the velocity I had that I gained somehow while I was with the Astros. His slider, curveball, isn't the plus pitch it used to be, but he still gets the job done. I mean, he's still able to give you, even, against Arizona, a lot of people were going to look at that start and be like, it's wasn't a good one, another clunker, but like, again, he kept us in the game for the most part until Brian Snicker. We should give Brian Snicker a grade. Anyway.
Yeah, we should.
Um,
I think it's tough because I love Charlie Morton. I think I'm more of a Charlie Morton defender than most people. I don't know if I trust Charlie with a start in the playoffs.
I do, but he's right now our fourth option.
Yeah. So, C+, we're still probably higher on Charlie than 90% of Braves fans. But the Jekyll and Hyde thing is rough. All right. That was it for the pitchers.
Yeah. Team grade.
C.
Wait, what the hell? You're giving. I was gonna say we say it at the same time. I was thinking C. ESPN just released their first half team rankings today. They gave them a C minus. I think C just because pitching has well exceeded our expectations. I think a lot of people are going to look at the offense and go like, no, this team has been a disappointment. We've been bad. Again, yeah, we're playing well below what we should be, but it would be so much worse without the pitching staff we've had.
Excellent pitching. Yeah. And as much as I would love to win the division, I'm not really basing the grade off of how far we are from the Phillies in the NL East.
The Phillies have been the best
That's
team
okay.
in the league. And, by the way, we've won 4-6 against them. So, Okay, real quick, we have a minute and 30 left. What grade would you give Brian Snicker?
A B. I like
B?
Snit better than most analytically minded Braves fans.
I would give him, because me too, I would still give him a C minus just because I legitimately think he's cost us a lot of games with just leaving starters in too long. That's a legitimate problem he has. But anyway, those are conversations we can have down the line. So I did run a query. You might have to check me on this because the metrics are super simple, but I probably could have easily screwed something up. And it makes sense. It's saying here that the Braves have not had a single pitcher hit 100 miles per hour this year.
That sounds right.
Because you have the Oakland Athletics with the most, which makes sense. I mean, you look at the, Mason Miller, 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 Mason Miller. Actually, all Mason Miller. That is insane. Mason Miller has thrown more pitches above 100 miles per hour than most teams have.
He is so
or
fun.
all teams have. That is crazy.
Yeah, there have been 24 teams to have a pitch thrown more faster than 100 miles an hour. The Braves are not on that list.
And they have one of the best ERAs in the league. We can have some fun with this. No!